What is going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in back to the channel. Today we're actually going to be doing brakes maintenance on the 240 today. This should apply to S13s, S14s, and so on. Basically, this is going to be our first thing that we're going to be doing to the S13. In order to get it legal, because it is a salvage title car, we have to pass a brake and light inspection. Now, the pads and rotors are not within spec. They're actually below spec. One of them's warped, so when you brake hard, the entire car shimmies and it doesn't feel good. Anyways, basic maintenance, everybody should know how to do their brakes at least, along with oil changes, spark plugs, and a couple other things we're going to cover in the next couple videos. But for now, we're just going to do the brakes today. It's pretty simple. I'll show you what we got. Hello. You like my outfit? Do I look good? Coveralls. I need some coveralls. Got our rotors here, super tiny. So doing a full brake job yourself is fairly inexpensive, especially if you go with a cheaper brand. Now for us, we're obviously going to be upgrading these brakes, but for now we're just trying to pass the inspection. We're not trying to go all out. We only have a certain amount of days until we can get this car registered before we start paying fees. So to avoid rushing Z32 brakes and having to pay a buttload of money for expedited shipping, we're just going to go with regular OEM stuff for now. For the front and rear pads and rotors, we were looking at about 200 bucks for the entire set. Not too bad. Starting with the front, we're going to take off our wheel, get the car jacked up in the air, secure everything in, and start disassembling. Now we can break the wheels loose.
So what did we learn, Sal?
Today we learned that the pinch welds on the 240s are incredibly weak. So the correct part where you're supposed to jack up from is this piece right there. All right, the car is jacked up safely. Now we're gonna remove the wheel. Now, if you're just doing a pad swap, the only bolt you really need to do is remove the top side and then loosen the bottom one. That will allow the actual caliper to come free so you can take the pads out and slide them right back in. But since we're gonna be changing the rotor too, we're gonna remove it where the bracket meets the caliper. God dang. Okay, a little tip. If you guys are having trouble with the brackets, I'm going to show you what to do. All we're doing is setting up the ratchet with the jack. We're going to use the jack for leverage. Oh yeah, there we go. Now this all should just slide apart. And then we're gonna set this caliper aside. If you're still connected to the brake hose like I am, make sure you can set it up away so it's not adding tension to it, because when they're old, they can crack. That'll cause brake failure. You can also grab a zip tie and just attach it to your strut. But we're just gonna set it right there because it's fine. Just like that, your rotor comes off. I think this is the warped one too. This is another thing I eventually wanna change out is the hubs. But again, we're working on a time crunch. We'll get to these later. Now keep in mind, whenever you guys are getting new parts, make sure to match your old part up to the new part if it is OEM or it's supposed to be the same. That'll ensure that this doesn't get thrown on instead of the other one. This is the rear, that's the front. Now before just slapping this rotor on, we're gonna hit it with some brake cleaner because there is oil and we wanna get all that stuff off the face and back side of the rotor. So we're just opening up our caliper here. We're gonna pull the brakes out, attach the caliper, and push the piston back. All right, we got our pads out. I'm just gonna throw our bolts back in for the caliper. That way when we put force on the caliper itself to push the piston back in, it's not gonna slide around everywhere. Hi, oh my God. Okay, so we got our caliper back on, everything's tight in the back. I'm just gonna go ahead and take the top side of this caliper off. We're gonna push this part right back inside. So we're gonna take our old brake pad here, slide it right on there, and we're gonna use the C-clamp to push this in. That looks good. Just a quick side note, when you're pushing the piston back into the caliper, make sure you're keeping an eye on your brake reservoir here. You don't want your fluid to overfill. If it does get a little bit too high, just try to suck some out with like a turkey baster or something like that. Everything's nice and flush here, so we're gonna go ahead and throw it back on the bracket. We're just gonna thread our bolt on the top side of this caliper here. That way we can just slide our pads in like that. Then I'm gonna grab our pad and throw it right back into the caliper. And our other brake pad right in. Then we're gonna tighten all of our bolts up. The front's done, we're gonna put the wheel back on and move to the other side. So the rears are basically the same, just a little bit different, and I'll show you exactly what you gotta do. But for starting out, to remove the caliper and the rotor, it's basically the same thing. Let's get this done. So the only real difference here, the rears have a bracket for your e-brake. In order to take this rotor off, you can't have the e-brake on. I have the e-brake off right now. This thing's pretty rotted. I hope we can get this off. I'm not gonna waste any of your guys' time. The rear is basically the same as the front. I'm gonna finish the rears and then go on a test ride. Okay, real quick, the rear brakes are not the same. I'm holding this caliper here. There's a tool you could actually buy called a square tool.
I don't know if it's a square tool.
Oh my God, Alina. Okay, well, there's a certain kind of tool and it goes into the grooves of this piston right there. Alina, just do it. This is what we've resorted to, just a plier and twist it until it goes all the way in. But everything else is basically the same. I'm gonna put the phone down and finish this up.
Like butter.
Okay guys, the next day, it's time for a test drive. We're gonna take it out on the street. We do have a moving permit now. So if we were to get popped, we actually got pulled over yesterday. Funny story, we got pulled over yesterday. Cop's like, why don't you have plates? And I said, because it's a new car. And he goes, this car looks like a piece of shit. It's not new. I said, well, it's new to me, and he let me go. Anyways, we got a moving permit now. When you get in the car, make sure you pump the brake pedal a bunch of times to build up pressure in the system. The pedal will go right to the floor, but eventually after a few presses, it should bring itself back up and feel like normal brakes again. So once we have that done, we're gonna start rolling out of the driveway. Be sure the car stops, because you wanna make sure you've done them right. So don't just start hitting the road immediately without testing them. Make sure they stop the car. Now we are gonna go bed the brakes. Not every brake pad and brake rotor is the same. Usually in the box with the brake pads, it'll show you usually what you have to do. Some do have break-in processes. This one does, some don't. The first one was get up to 20 miles an hour and then hit the brakes hard. So we're just gonna hit the brakes hard right now. And they worked. The car did not feel like it was gonna fall apart, so that was nice. And then 30 miles an hour, a little past 30. Whoa, that was good, huh?
Yeah.
And then it's a 60 roll.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Okay, wait, let me put my bottom buckle on.
So I'm gonna drop you off down here and I'm gonna fucking lay into it. So we'll get you in the shade over here. They work well. They smoked?
Yeah.
I can smell them, that's for sure. Well, so I guess we'll stop in the shade right here. I think this is a good place to stop. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like. It really helps out the channel a ton. If you guys saw any mistakes that I said, be sure to put them in the comments below. Roast me in the comments, whatever. If you guys have better ideas or better tools to use for brake systems and changing out your pads and rotors and stuff, be sure to leave it down in the comments below. But anyways, that's gonna be all for today. If you're new here, consider subscribing. New videos every Monday. And if you wanna stay up to date on all the builds, go follow us on Instagram and TikTok at 86 Skulls. You can see all behind the scenes footage over there. And with that, we'll see you guys next week. Take it easy.